In this lesson, I will show you how to use Sketchbook Pro's useful layer editor. Layer editor will help us build drawings, separate and organize elements of a drawing so they can be isolated for controlled changes. Let's begin by opening our layerbunny.tiff file. So let's go to the main menu bar under File, Open, and select Layer Bunny. Before we start, let's open our layer editor. The background layer is your starting point. So let's go ahead and move our cursor over to the toolbar, on your user interface. And you see this layer icon here where it says Layers. Go ahead and drag down to it and lift up on your cursor. And here's your layer editor. And what I like you to do is bring your cursor to the middle of that preview image, press down. As you drag and go around, you can see all the different tools here. Now, obviously, some of them are deactivated because we haven't made any selections yet. So let's go ahead and do the first one, which is directly to our right. It's called Renaming the Layer. So if you go ahead and keep that selected, pull over to the right, and where it says Rename Layer, I want you to lift up. And what that's going to do, it's going to pop up a window that will allow you to basically rename the layer. Now, you can leave the layer named as background if you'd like. What I usually like to do is I like to go ahead and rename it. So let's go ahead and before you get started, click on the small box here which says Show me what's on this layer. And it says word background. Now you can leave it if you like, but I'm going to go ahead and clear that. So go ahead and hit the clear button. And then you're going to handwrite a number 1, and you can put a circle around it. And we're going to call that Bunny 1. And we're going to go ahead and click OK. And you've just renamed your layer. Now, the second control is the one just above the name of the layer. And you see like a sliding bar with an arrow. Go ahead and click on that. And what that's going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to adjust the opacity of that drawing. Okay, right now it's set at 100%, which is the most contrast. Now, as we click down and hold and move that bar over to the midsection to 50%, look what's happened to our drawing. It's become a little bit translucent. And if we go ahead and click down on the opacity control again and move it all the way to 0, oops, let's bring our drawing back. So let's go ahead and click on that again and bring that opacity control all the way to 100%. Now, that's going to be really useful as we start to develop our drawing as we're starting to use layers, and I'll show you why. Another thing that you like to do is go ahead and bring your cursor to the middle of that editor and go up. And what you're going to do is you're going to add a layer. Go ahead and lift up. And what you're going to do now is you're going to now have a second layer. Let's go ahead and rename that layer. Again, select the middle, drag to the right. We're going to click off to show me what's on this layer. We're going to clear the image. And we're going to call this layer 2. And we're going to call this Big Bunnies. Again, you can go ahead and write this on your tablet or input device. Click OK. Now we have 2 layers to work with. So let me show you how drawing in layers works. We're going to go back to the first layer. Now, one of the controls I'd like to share with you before we move on is really quickly is that you can turn layers on and off. Now, if you go ahead and put your cursor in the middle and drag to the left opposite the renaming layer, you see a little eye icon. Just go ahead and drag and lift up. You see what happens? And to make them come back, go ahead and position your pen back in the center and move to the left where it says Show Layer. Hide Layer, Show Layer. Now you can also lock a layer down. Let's say you're working on a drawing and you don't want to inadvertently select that layer. You can lock that layer. And what happens is there's nothing you can do in that layer. Even if I wanted to draw, nothing would work. And it's a great way to preserve a drawing, especially one that you spend a lot of time on. All right. So let's go ahead and make that drawing active. Now, one of the things I always keep an eye on when you're working with the layer editor is that it's always highlighted in red. So as long as that highlight is on, that's the layer you're working on. You're never going to be working in 2 layers. You're either working on one or the other. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and go to our interface lagoon, go to Edit. Let's go ahead and pick Marquee Select. And let's pick this guy right here. We're going to marquee select one of the bunnies down below. We're going to copy him. Let's go to our Edit, Copy. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and put him on a second layer. So while he's selected and kind of floating out there, let's go ahead and select that second layer. And then what we're going to do is we're going to paste him on the second layer. So go back to Edit and Paste. See, he's kind of floating around. Now, it looks like he's kind of obscured or blended into the other bunnies. So to make him probably pop out a little bit more, we'll go back to the first layer. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the opacity control, and we'll go ahead and slide that bar down to, let's say, 30%. Now the bunny on the second layer is more opaque than the ones in the back. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and lock down that first layer so that we can't draw on it. You see how when I try to draw or do any pen movements, there's a circle that cross through it? Okay, that tells you that you can't work in that layer. So let's go ahead and go to the second layer while we're still in marquee selection mode. And if you don't have it, again, go back to the user interface and reselect it. Now that you select it, let's go ahead and enlarge him by putting our cursor in the middle of the editing tool. Okay, we're going to scale him up, and we're going to go ahead and copy, and we're going to paste another one of his buddies right next to him. Now we'll put him up here. We'll paste another one over here. I'll make this one a little bigger. Now, what we'd like to do is we'd like to, in this illustration, make these three bunnies stand up proud in front of all these other bunnies. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that by erasing out all of the bunnies that are visible through the second layer. So we're going to return to the first layer, unlock that, and then what we're going to do is use our move and zoom tools. We'll move in position. We're going to go ahead and pick our erasers. Now, our erasers are going to be found in our brush tools, so we'll go ahead and select on the brush tool box, select an eraser. Let's go ahead and resize an eraser so that it fits with what we're doing. And now, at first you're going to go, hey, I'm getting a little nervous here. I don't want to be racing through both bunnies, but you won't. Look at how that works. So wherever the bunnies on the first layer are appearing through the big bunnies on the top layer, you can go ahead and erase those out. See how that layer editor is so helpful when you're drawing? It just allows you to have that extra edge to make those corrections without having to layer and to erase and create mask. And if you need to move, go ahead and grab your move and zoom tool. Let's go ahead and take care of that other one there. Now you can also lasso select as well. Just kind of keep an eye on where those elements are on the drawing, and you can lasso select and remove those bunnies. Oh, we almost lost a feet on that one too. So let's go ahead and make sure. And always a good practice is to go ahead and move and zoom out and just kind of pan across your drawing to make sure that everything's done. Okay. Let's go ahead and go back to the opacity control, and let's slowly put our cursor on that slider and move that slider up. Now, what does that tell you already? I can see something going on here, but I think that's more of a visual illusion. But other than that, it looks pretty good. Let's slide that all the way over. And I'm going to go ahead and close my brush tool so you can get a better look. And I'm going to move my resize brush tool. You can see how the bunny has not only grown in size, but you can even see that it's grown in line weight as well. So it really makes those bunnies stand out proud. Now, there are two other features I'd like to share with you, and these are particularly related to layers, and it's about collapsing layers and moving layers up and down. Now, if I click on this elevator logo here, now what that does, it allows you to actually move layers up and down, above a layer, or return it back to where it was. And you can see the dynamic change in the drawing because the lines start to impede in the other line. So let's go ahead and move that down. And that's really useful if you're doing a drawing that has multiple layers and you're trying to move certain elements around to get contrast, or you want to obscure some details without using the opacity controls. That's where moving layers are really important. But there's also another feature which allows you to combine layers, and that's collapsing. Now you can move with either one. I'm going to go with the top one. If you go ahead and move your cursor to the middle of that, and you move down to the lower icon where it says merge with below. Now what that does, if you select that and you lift up, it now compresses into one layer. Now sometimes that's good when you're doing a comprehensive drawing and you have so many layers that sometimes, it's kind of like, well, I'm not really going to have to go back to that, and that drawing is pretty much fixed. It's okay to compress layers. Otherwise, you can always go back if you change your mind to go to your undo tool, and it returns to 2 layers. To close, using layers allows you to manage the different elements of a drawing while maintaining your original inspiration.